This is Due by Friday, a weekly challenge podcast with Alex Cox and Merlin Mann. This week's challenge, use voice to text.
I'm so sorry. I got you waiting in the lobby.
Oh, the lobby.
He's got me waiting in a lobby.
Oh, jeez.
Do you know that line?
Oh, man, Rick. No, I don't.
Frank Pantangeli, Godfather 2. He's the guy with the mustache. Here's the thing. The guy, oh my God, Alex, this episode. The guy who played Clemenza in Godfather 1 wanted too much money for what they were willing to pay him. He asked for a pretty extravagant amount of money to come back for Godfather 2. And it wasn't going to happen. So basically, they created Frank Pantangeli to kind of like stand in for his character. And luckily, that actor's great. The character's great. There's one where he goes in. He's got to talk about like the Rosados, and he goes in. Remember during the I think it's during the big party where the senator comes to the party.
This isn't in Cuba. It's before. Is it the one before that?
No. So like yeah. You're on the right track. The movie starts out at the top. Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful.
This is not relevant. This is not relevant. It's just it's a great scene. And he says
First
he's got me
scene
waiting in a lobby. And then he goes, "Chich,
Okay.
a puerta." And he points to the door. I'm sorry. Okay, this is going to...
No,
okay.
don't apologize.
Okay. Okay, here's the thing.
Please don't apologize.
Stop telling me what to do, you
That's
whore.
why I said please.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yes, please.
And I have concerns about this episode because I'm so fucking excited. I mean, I always enjoy visiting with you, but I'm so excited. Are you recording on your end?
I am indeed. And
so I've got
Zoom.
Zoom. I've got Zoom. I've got Audio Hijack, and I think I've got Local and Cloud, but I think we'll be okay. All right.
Yes.
My audio quality's been garbage, and I'm looking forward to it not being as garbage. You know, the thing is, as you know better than anybody, we tend to thrive under pressure in life. Look at you. You're like a diamond. Or
yes.
a pearl? Some kind of a thing mentioned at a Prince song.
We don't say that anymore. A sapphire.
We don't say pearl anymore. What do we say now? We say
I'm a sapphire, as they. I'm not a sapphire.
Shine bright like
I'm
a
trying
diamond.
to make an astrology.
Shine bright like a diamond. I think that's the Rihanna song I know. Wait, there's that, and I know Umbrella, Umbrella, Umbrella. That's the two Rihanna songs I know.
Unlike ha 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 ha, which is just
ha. Did it get in your head?
Yes.
Doesn't she have great dimples?
No,
okay.
No.
What?
I don't remember what she
dimples?
looks like. I don't know what her.
Did you watch the video?
Okay. I apologize. I revised it.
Okay, forget it. This is going to be a really good episode.
Know.
Here's the problem. When I'm excited
What's
about the content...
pressure?
Huh?
What's the pressure? Where is it?
Oh. Okay, here's the thing. Forget it. Never mind. Okay. Hi, everybody.
No. Beep.
When I'm excited about the content of an upcoming episode, those tend to be the worst episodes for me. Not this, but just in my life. It's better because I thrive under the pressure. So I can shine bright like a diamond, because the beauty of improv is when things go wrong. When things go right, it just seems like you're doing as we used to say in Cub Scouts, you're doing a skit, they call it. But I'm excited to talk about the challenge for this week. I am very excited about a topic I've kind of shoehorned possibly into this episode. I'm so excited about something I started playing with this week. And I've added 2 really good challenges to the spreadsheet that I'm kind of excited about.
Ooh,
This will be a doomed episode.
I'm going to. It is.
Yeah.
This. I mean, we talked about media, so we've got the death out of the way. We're like in the afterlife.
There's media it's media adjacent.
No, we've already fucked ourselves with The Godfather, so this is just the cigarette now.
That wasn't a challenge.
Fair.
Do you think a lot of people start smoking because of intercourse? They just need something to do to fill the time after?
The only time I've had a puff of a cigarette is because of a girl. Yeah. So I think it's possible. Like if you've completed an activity and someone hands you a cigarette, like this has never happened. But I think if someone were to hand me a cigarette in that situation, I would be like, thank you, and not make a comment.
You just got 2 indications that you're officially in the club. First of all, you bone down with somebody and whatever that means to you, but then also someone offered you a cigarette because you're such a grown-up.
No, that literally didn't happen. I am saying that I went, oh gosh, I'm loud. I went outside to I interrupt people. I'm going to cut that out. That made me grumpy.
What made you grumpy?
No, I'm not. I don't like it when people on the internet say that you interrupt me, because if that was true, I feel there's like an implication.
I do interrupt you. I interrupt you a lot. It's part of the show.
Yes, and I would. Yeah, but if I felt like it was a problem, it's our show, and I would interrupt back. Anyway, I was never in a situation.
I just want the show to come out. That's all I care about.
I know. Post coitus where anyone handed me a cigarette, but if it did happen, like no bits. If it did, I think I would panic and say yes. The one time I tried to smoke a cigarette, it was because it was a social situation where a girl I liked and a few other people were going outside, and I was like, yeah, I'll join.
Oh yeah, now it's time for smoking with girls.
Yes.
I'll go with you because I smoke and I'm a girl.
Yeah, it was like, oh,
so are you.
Yeah, we're gonna.
You're smoking.
Well, it wasn't just there were 5 of us. 2 people liked one girl, but I don't know if this is what is on your mind for the many topics, but that's one form of socialization that's kind of gone, and at the workplace, at least, like during class in college, people would leave for smoke breaks, and I would sit there like, I'm not an art fag. They would go they were fags who would go art outside.
By that you mean cigarette?
I suppose, yes.
Yeah, because that's an English word for that,
Yes, across the pond.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, should we do an experiment where I try not to interrupt you for the rest of this episode?
No,
No. It's not a troll. It's not a troll. But I don't want our listeners to be mad at me. I think it's part of the bit. But I would be happy to try and I would be happy to try and stop doing that.
I don't like it. No.
I might do it anyway, but we'll see.
What about smoking? You were going somewhere, and then I decided to talk about how bad I thought cigarettes tasted the single time, or not. Maybe cigarettes are good.
But you might have thought that about Cooter too.
Exactly. It is one. Exactly. It could have just been one.
They both taste like 9-volt batteries. Do you ever lick every? I know. I don't even have to ask. I know you've licked a 9-volt battery. I don't even have to ask. I bet you've canceled stuff to lick a 9-volt battery.
Oh,
have you never licked a 9-volt battery?
Is that? I don't think so.
Do you know? Okay, first of all, these used to be everywhere, and now they're pretty rare. Do you know what a 9-volt battery is?
Yeah, I haven't seen one in a very long time.
It's got the negative and positive terminal on top.
Yeah.
There's a thing that we all knew back in the before times, which is if you wanted to see, so like, you get batteries, nobody used to have like battery testers. Like that wasn't a thing.
Oh.
In the 70s?
Oh, sorry, 90s. Never mind.
But if your electronic quarterback is being a little janky, you take out the 9-volt battery and you put the 2 terminals on your tongue.
And it is a little zippy zap.
And if you feel like, if it's really fresh, it's a little painful. If it's dead, you don't feel anything. And now you know, and you can tell in between, like how much of a charge did you get from the 9-volt battery on your tongue. And that tells you like roughly how much charge is left in it. But there's a feeling, but there's also something, this might be synesthesia. I think it's not. It's something that I would describe as a very specific and memorable taste.
Huh.
And now that is going to get
this
added.
Afternoon.
Well, if it's a challenge, you should wait. Let's not make it a challenge. That's too weird. Go buy a 9-volt battery and do it, and see if it's like any. I don't know what your life is like. But,
we did shock each other for about a half an hour.
That was so funny.
About a decade ago. I don't know how wholesome that was.
Max's reaction to that was so freaking funny.
Stop it! Stop it! I put my tongue on that. It was unpleasant.
Oh dear, you put it. Oh, so you know what I'm talking about.
I suppose I know what it is like to shock a tongue.
Is it like a slightly? Well, the primary thing is like it's a shock with undertones of sour.
Yeah, yes, and there's an aftertaste, which I didn't expect.
Yeah, and however you feel about that particular taste, there's a reason that particular taste or sensation has been associated with certain kinds of grown-up activity.
But is it?
Did you ever go downtown on a lady?
Okay, I'm not. No, but.
No, seriously. Did you ever? Have you ever gone down the steps and gotten into the cellar with a lady?
Yeah,
you don't have to say if you don't want to. I know you're not a big eater. So anyway.
Excuse me.
How are you? You good?
I am well, thank you.
I'm gonna calm down now, and I'll just see where the show takes us. You want to drive? You can drive.
You don't need to be calm. You're excited.
I'm excited.
You are excited about the challenge. If we're gonna pretend that that's part of the show, that's not true. Sometimes it is.
You know, you love to do that thing where I know we're just bleeding listeners because of all my interruptions, but we could.
Oh my God!
We could save ChatGPT Canvas talk for the after show.
What if we did the after show first?
Oh shit.
I was thinking about that a lot.
No, I do absolutely love that for all kinds of reasons. But my only fear or concern is, so you're saying we record, if we were to record the after show now, and then we're done with that, we record the main episode. I think we've done that once or twice before.
We have never done that. We've done that on previous shows. We would just release.
But my concern would be then, in the public thing that came chronologically after, there would, just knowing me and you, there would be references that wouldn't make sense. And then people wouldn't have a way to listen and know. That would be kind of weird. I'll do whatever you want. We could talk about it now. But, no. Hi, everybody. This is a podcast.
Here we are in Spain. This is a podcast.
Yes, and I need a type of a job and a pizza topping and something that tastes like a 9-volt battery. Are you eating out tonight? Am I?
There's
Did you get my joke? I pretended that somebody said, "Hey, are you eating out tonight?" And the person responds by saying, "Boy, am I."
Am I?
It's her birthday, so she gets to pick what I eat. Is there a bit? Okay, there's a bit, and I want to know if this is a thing. I have a drafts document that the world will never see until the executor of my estate, because I'm not going to do a will. I want Syracuse to have to figure this out. All I want is I'm going to leave it on a note right before I go. John Syracuse has to deal with my estate. Because I love thinking about that. He'll be the one who finally finds this, which is my list of things in drafts. It's kind of like, there's a very funny bit in Parks and Rec where they go to the doctor, remember, and they try and get all their health insurance stuff, and then he runs into an ambulance. It's a very funny episode.
Yes.
It's a very funny Andy episode. But there's one where he's like, he says something about blah, 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 I don't know. So I think he says something like, he has this whole list of things. And I think it's what they call a fun run. Like he's just doing a bunch of like, on the spot, like sort of bits quickly that were written quickly. And he gets, he says something like, this list of things that he's thinking about. And one of them is, I don't know who Al Gore is, and I feel like it's too late to ask. I have a list of things, a private, curated, careful list of things where it's definitely too late for me to ask. Let's put one. Here's one right at the top. Have you ever met somebody, become acquainted with them, become friends with them? Perhaps they know you better than you know them, but you're 3 years into the relationship and you're still not really sure what their name is. No. Me neither.
But
me neither. But if I had, that would be the kind of thing. Oh, hey, how's it going there? And then you turn into Kent from Iron Giant. You're like, hey, Ranger, how's it going, sport?
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Chief.
Hey, pal.
And I have a lot of those, and several of them involve sex stuff that I have the gist of, but I'm not going to look up. And if you try and look it up, like it makes it I have a lot of things on that list. And yeah, I mean, there's some sex stuff on there that I wish I could get clarified. Maybe I've answered somebody's question out there about 9-volt batteries. I don't know.
I was just.
But one of the bits though is
test it. They're not on the 9-volt, not the.
Oh no, do that today. Do that today for sure. Get yourself some fries and a Diet Coke from McDonald's, and then go get you a 9-volt battery. But one of those is like a bit that is in TV shows. And like, as somebody who grew up in Generation ZZ Top, I've learned not to let media and culture have over much of an impact on you without you understanding its role. Like, I just always assumed like 3 girls in high heels would show up in a red car and give me a makeover. Like, like in a ZZ Top video, and it never really happened. But there's a joke that people make, sometimes men, sometimes women, but people in a relationship go, oh, there's a thing that this guy gets to do because it's his birthday.
Yes.
And I think it's anal intercourse.
Yes.
It could be a beach, but I think it's like, this is a thing I don't particularly like or want in our, how you say, regular rotation. I'm not talking about spinners. I'm not talking about crows. But it's his birthday. And then like sometimes guys make that joke, oh, it's my birthday. Do you know what I'm talking about? Are you aware of this bit?
Yes. Are
you aware of this? Like, let's just say we could even make it as abstract as there's a sex act that the guy gets to do on a girl because it's his birthday. The girl lets him, right? And like, it seems like it's kind of implying that it's into butt, usually.
Yes, but I think there's other, See, I kind of want feedback because I did always assume.
You are officially in charge of receiving all.
Yes.
Get ready. You are now officially in charge of receiving all of our listener feedback about birthday anal.
Yes. I want to know if there is something that is other than, like, it, because birthday anal, definitely a thing. But.
You think it's deep? But okay, two parts. First, I want to hear this. But first of all, do you agree that that's a bit, at least? And, like, then the second part, which is more complex, is, like, do you think that's a bit that's based on, like, a thing that happens often enough? Yeah. Do you think there's a lot of women who let a guy fuck them in the ass once a year?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't know what came first.
He did.
Pop culture. I tried. I don't know what happened first, though. Is the special birthday treat just something that has existed through all of human history?
Like prima nocta, or like something that comes down like from like old English law, where I see. You know what I bet it is? I bet it's like a guy.
Or I interrupted you. No, sorry, see, the world is I interrupted you. The world is out of balance. Jazz break.
Going on a Scotsy.
But or was it it was a bit on a show and
exactly, and now it seems that is some good ass cultural criticism right there. Pardon. No pun intended. Every pun's intended, you piece of shit. But I mean, in the bit, as one could like backfill the, oh dear, I don't like that either. As one could fill the dumpster of the bit, I think it's that, hey, AFAB, I'm your AMAB, and I want to do butt stuff. And the person goes, like, okay, I tried butt stuff. Some people really, really, really like things with their butt, in the inside of their butt. And that's one of my questions, actually, is about what butt sex means, because I think people mean different things. It's on my list. But penetrative, we've got to get off this in a minute. That's what she said. The seeming story would be guy wants to do thing and says, hey, can we do thing? And woman goes, I've done, or maybe it's like, no, you can't do thing. Like, that's not really a thing I want to do. And for a variety of reasons, like, it could just be you can't see my face. And I think that's strange, right? Like, there's all kinds of reasons. And it's, very unpleasant to some people. But AMAB says, yeah, but, like, can we do this? Just like, and I bet AFAB says, you know what? You can do it on your birthday. Because first of all, that means I can go back to watching, Survivor and be left alone for the night. I don't have to go into some sexual odyssey before I go to bed to get up for work in the morning. Can we do this as a standing meeting?
There's okay. There's
Vanessa, have a seat. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, guys, can I just say one thing? Levels. Yesterday was Doug's birthday. Oh. Happy birthday, Doug.
You mentioned the amabbiness and the fabious,
because that's how it's framed. It's definitely framed as dude wants to do thing to girl. Usually.
But there's also been really unfunny sitcom bits where it's like a pegging joke and a lady's like, now we get to do it on my birthday, and there's an implication that she gets to do something crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, but part of the birthday situation, and this could be because I know a lot of gay men who enjoy the butt stuff, but anyway, there's a lot of preparation involved. I didn't realize how much preparation goes into this.
Yeah, we should probably put a pin in this one because
but I'm saying that you got to plan.
Yes. I didn't know prep. I didn't know prep was actually a name for an actual medical thing. No, you kept talking about it. And I thought that was like putting on a dental dam or something. Dental dam. Lisa needs braces. Do you want to talk about chat? I mean, are you interested in ChatGPT Canvas?
I'm trying not to respond sarcastically because I was literally just listening to you and our friend Jeff.
Oh my God, you're listening to that podcast? Oh my God, how funny. I put that in notes because I think people would like it. I mentioned on that episode that I had the episode where we talked about ChatGPT. That helps.
I mean, in the episode that I'm talking about, where you talked about the episode that we're talking about now on this episode,
you should have called in during the elderly pets episode.
Yeah, I remember. I got that reference almost. I'm going to have to ask GPT. But I was like, oh yeah, which episode was that? Because you will not be surprised to know that even with all of our episode transcripts, not all, a lot of our episode transcripts in ChatGPT, it's like, oh, I don't know which one we've talked. Yeah, I'm 6 in. Because I'm trying to automate it, and it's not. We can talk about the laptop saga later, but it is easy if you have a laptop, or a computer.
Are you without a computer again?
I have not had a computer Matt has a computer that I get to use very often, but I haven't for a while. Ever since I thought it was just my Touch ID. Remember we were using Riverside, and that is
you were
like the
recording
one
on your phone that whole time.
No, I was recording into a Zoom H6, like one of those field recorders, via the mic that I'm talking into now, and talking to you over a cellular connection. And then
we should probably put a second pin in that because you should have a computer. We should work that out. In that case, I don't know. We don't have to talk because it's only available. I'm only getting Canvas on the website. I'm not getting it in the app.
So I'm using Matt's computer right now, and I just opened it, but I still can't open the link you sent me. And I believe it's because collaboration is not available, at least according to the chat I was having with ChatGPT.
The second link, you should be able to at least see what it looks like.
Yes, I can see it. I can't.
Then I don't know because it would just. Can I just put a stake in the ground then about why I'm excited about it, and then after you've had time, maybe we'll come back.
Please.
I don't know. I hadn't heard. So this is a thing that was announced toward the beginning of this month, I guess, and somehow there's been a lot of interesting to me tech stuff happening lately. I mean, there's, it's been neat to have 18.1 myself, but now that other people have 18 and 18.1. That's kind of exciting. And I set up my AirPods Pro as a hearing aid.
Isn't it good?
It's pretty neat.
Gosh.
I haven't really had a chance to test it yet, but it's really neat. There's just a lot of really neat tech stuff, consumer tech stuff that's really in my wheelhouse right now. So I don't know, whatever, I missed this, but I don't really exactly understand what Canvas is. I guess I'm not a good reader. Sometimes I think the things people write about this are kind of confusing to me. But anyway, Canvas, how do you describe it? You know what? Let's go to the page. Is that okay? And I'll try to be quick about this. I'm not interrupt myself.
Oh, don't be quick about this.
No, but if you haven't had a chance to play with it won't,
let me get here. I'm going to send you 2 links. Because I have had access to a computer for about an hour. Matthew's at work. And but before that, I was talking with the advanced voice mode is now, I think, everywhere, or at least I don't know how to switch
it's
to...
like if anybody's got a Plus account, they should have it. Anywhere that's geographically, available.
Right. And I was just asking it about Canvas and what it can do, and we went on a tangent, and it just reminded me how I continue to love to collaborate with this. But then I am in the browser now, and I upload my gigantic JSON file of my mood numbers that is what's
is
your
that
mood
what you sent
1 through 5
when you sent me okay, all right,
like a decade's not a decade, like at least a couple years worth of it. And so then but now before it gave me like a graph that obviously doesn't make sense, because if you're tracking your mood 1 through 5, 1
now
being
again you're learning,
the worst,
right? You're learning.
Yes.
No, but not just like, you're not just like reviewing aggregated data. I mean, like in my example that I'm going to give, which fucking blew my mind, I've learned a lot of stuff about what I can do better to get the kinds of things that I want. But did it, can I, here's what I did. I just said so right now I am on the web. I'm at ChatGPT 4.0 with Canvas is the pull down that I've had. And all I said was describe how Canvas is different from straight 4.0. And so it says Canvas is a feature that allows you to interact with larger, more focused pieces of content like documents, reports, stories, or code compared to the usual conversational responses. Here's a breakdown, right? So I think the headline for a lot of folks, which is really neat if you're like fairly like new to programming, I guess, or scripting or development, is like, there's this, it's interactive. So like there's, which I guess it always is in the sense that you can always ask for things, but I'm not doing a good job explaining this because I don't really understand it myself. But my example, I think, will hopefully help this. But like, if you make more than ever, if you're doing something to make code or changing code, it's got some really neat interactive ways to improve that. It'll do stuff like automatically comment out like why it's doing certain things. And I haven't spent a lot of time with that. But other ones, like you can ask, when you ask it to make images now, it's apparently, I haven't had time to, this is not my second or third day of this. You have much more ability to interact and say exactly what you want about the image. And then I think another one of the banner ones is along the lines of what Apple is trying to do with writing tools, which is a much more interactive way of dealing with things that you've written or that you've collaborated on with ChatGPT to write. And the Canvas part of it, I think, is just to imply that, to draw you in more to like this being a collaborative process. And that's not a very good explanation, but
I can't explain it either. Like, let's say I could talk and say words in a way that made sense, just in general. I couldn't. Like, I literally don't know how this is working, because this is sort of the way most people expect an LLM to work, because I'll go back and say, hey, can you change this?
Yes, that's a good way. That's a great way to, like, I thought it always should do this, right?
Yeah, like, instead of having to explain, well, no, it's not like learning off of the thing. I'm like, wait, it's doing exactly what not exactly, but like, oh, wait. So I don't know what's happening.
While we're having all these arguments and just disagreements and dust-ups about whether ChatGPT can actually reason. Spoiler alert, it can't. There's another thing happening over here that just further amplifies the parts about this that you and I and Jeff and similar find magical about this. And while at the same time perhaps being a way, if you haven't fucked around with this stuff before, geez, what a dumb thing to say. But like if you haven't before, this isn't a bad place to start for precisely the reason you said, which is it does a lot more of the like, sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Like there's some stuff in this that here's my hot take. I'm as excited about this as I was when I first got on ChatGPT.
I am still sort of in shock.
It's all just there. It just does the thing.
Yeah, I'm still like, wait, I've barely played with it, so I put in my example data at I guess it doesn't have timestamps, but it's like wait, and I was like double checking the math, like it's doing math.
Well, it's almost like you feel like your balls are in the photo. You're like, wait a minute, how did you get that? Like what?
Yeah,
how did you how did you in like 5 seconds make some kind of a correlation that in a million years I never would have seen?
Hey, people, welcome. If you're
Hey, everybody, it's a podcast.
You're right. It is hard to explain because what we're saying is that it's doing what an LLM on the surface cannot, which is immediately interact with data, immediately manipulate data.
It can collate, associate, synthesize. Yes, manipulate. It can do all kinds of stuff. It can do stuff by you just asking for it, but a lot of times you don't even really need to ask for it. And then there'll be a lozenge at the bottom that says, like, the little buttons that are suggestions. And for the first time that since I've started using an app like this, the suggestions are like, whoa, holy shit. That's exactly what I was about to ask you.
Yes. And another reason that this, I think, should be a good introduction for people is if you just go in blind, I hit surprise me, like the old Google button, I feel lucky or whatever. Yeah. And it went to boring suggestions, like tell me a story and all that. But even if you just push that button, it takes you through interesting things that previously regular Chat GPT couldn't do. But I think it's something that a person would assume that a, quote, artificial intelligence would be able to. And that's where technically I don't know how it's happening.
Did I send you that Tech Radar article? I think I did. 4 ways you can use Oh, shit. Okay. I wish it was a little bit easier to find and send links in Readwise. I'm going to copy original. I'm clicking. Okay, so this is a Tech Radar piece that, with all of our, dithering about this, I think this right here is a pretty good, like if you know a little bit about this stuff or have played a little bit with this stuff, I mean, if you know a lot about this stuff, definitely read this. But even if you just know a little bit about this stuff, I think this is a pretty good piece. Let's see. ChatGPT, this is Tech Radar, an article by Eric Hal Schwartz from a week ago today. ChatGPT became a reading through.
Skip the headline.
Oh, sorry. 4 ways you can use...
No, skip. Oh, no, I was saying skip it because it's bad.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
It's so bad.
But they are actually 4 really good ways. ChatGPT became more collaborative when OpenAI released Canvas mode in October, switching to Canvas, But it gives you these four ideas, a couple of which might blow your mind a little bit. Check out the section called Weekly Planning. And, I mean, really check out all of them. But... Can I talk about like how this blew me away or like what blew me away real quick?
Yes,
please. And then we can talk more about it when you've had more time to play with it. But so like as with everything, like you just gave a great example of what can be a little bit of a mixed bag with these things, which is like, okay, ChatGPT, at least in my brain, is kind of famous for like not being really great at telling you what it's good at. And part of that, I don't know how much of this is human massaging and prompt injection on their end, but a lot of times, yeah, it does give you silly, like read me a bedtime story or, those kinds of things. So you could say to somebody, this sounds so insulting and I apologize, but it's like, if you want to show your grandmother a funny thing a computer can do, that would be fun. in 1970, probably 7, we went to our friend's house for dinner, the Myers family, and their weird son, who was definitely, what do they call him? Not a kaiju. What's the kind of guy who just sits around and watches anime in his room all day?
A weeboo?
Kotaku? But
yes,
he was, he looks, basically imagine any yearbook photo you've seen of anybody for the middle 4 years of the 1970s. Like, basically like Mike Stivic on All in the Family, like Rob Reiner's character with the weird mustache. And he had written a dating program. And you sit down and it's basically a program that just insults you. But it was magical. It was a command line thing. This is in the 70s. But it was his home computer. Well, I don't know what it was. Altair? I don't know what people had for computers then. But he had done this thing. And it was like, whoa, that's really... If you wanted to show your grandfather a funny thing that a computer can do, saying like, oh, it'll tell me a story. And you're like, okay, like that doesn't feel that distinguishable from anything else I'd read on the web, and it doesn't include my interaction so much. In an example like that, it helps to do something, I think, when you're doing a demo like that, to make it about that person without being weird about it. So you could say, Grandma, when did you and Grandpa get married? And you say, December 24th, 1956. That's actually my parents' anniversary. December 24th, 1956. And you say, okay, what was the number one song? What was the headline in the New York Times, etc.? I think something like that is a good example because it's grounded in something that would make that person go, I don't know what song that would be. How much is that doggy in the window? Or, Auf Wiedersehen by Vera Lynn or whatever, some song. You're like, oh my God, it just did that? And you're like, yeah, it just does that. It's crazy. And also I could say like, I can do a search and find out what year this building was built. And you're like, wait, you just do that? And you're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm trying to say is that just telling a generic story may not be very fun, going too far to where I'm saying, what time was my wife born? Too creepy, but somewhere in between. So for me to make a big connection with this, I can pair bond with these things over fairly general information, but it's when I have a specific itch to scratch and the presence of mind to do it, that's when I go like, whoa. Mm-hmm. So I've only played with this for a few days. Here's a few examples of things that I've done. And what I want to focus on real quick to get you guys excited is like you can find lots of places that are going to talk about writing. They're going to talk about coding, all that kind of stuff. I think of the stuff that's being discussed about this, that's kind of the highlight. I want to take you back to December and January, like December 23, January 24, where I was, going through my health problems. And you and our listeners might remember, my shrink certainly remembers, the amount of time I was spending between ChatGPT and Playground, API Playground, basically just doing anything I can to be able to just upload. It seemed so straightforward and like such a good fit. I don't know if you remember, I got kind of frustrated though, because I would go through all of this stuff that brought out both the best and worst of LLMs. It brought out the best because it's like, yeah, you go to Playgrounds and you just upload a fuck ton of JSON and it can do stuff to it. The other side that's kind of a bummer, apart from not knowing arithmetic or reasoning sometimes, is that it's not really talking. And in some ways, it's not really listening. It can add stuff to the prompt to change what you want, but you may remember, or at least I remember, for the life of me, I could not get it to remember. I'm going to put this carefully. I could not get ChatGPT to remember that it knows how to parse this JSON data and it knows what I want out of it. So like even something just as simple as track my blood pressure, like from this, and then I won't go into all the stuff, but like for the sake of argument, anything in your life that's exciting to you that can be turned into CSV or JSON, this applies, right? And in that case, that became kind of frustrating. I spent a lot of time on, I don't regret it because I got to spend time with my friend ChatGPT and learn a lot, but it seemed pretty elementary to be able to do that. So just keep that in your mind for a second, that what my struggle with trying as hard as I could, and sometimes for 6 hours a day, to make this thing work the way I thought I wanted it to work and the way it seemed like it wanted to work. And then, of course, you know how this is. The frustration of like, look, dude, same way as with a person. You're like, I've asked you not to like burn popcorn in the office kitchen, but you keep doing it. And like, it's starting to seem like you're a little willful. So here's some quick examples for me. I have to go to my document for this. I just put in some random stuff. My stuff is mainly going to be about like weird data stuff. I see it's up here. So like, for example, I mentioned this in that podcast episode with Jeff. What we're talking about is an episode of Overtired that went up, I think, today. And, I feel like my bullshit. Jeff's awesome, though. But like, for example, I mentioned on there how I've always wanted to have an easy way to make a timeline of my life. Like, if you can just set aside for a minute whether that's useful or whether you would want that, listener. Like, just for a minute, I would like to be able to say, I was like, okay, so like where I'd said, I have a document, for example, called Family Milestones, where I made a custom GPT where I uploaded the birth dates of a lot of the important people in my family and my life. And then was able to do stuff like say, like that demo I just mentioned. I could say, what was the number one song when the day Grandma Steinus turned 40? And it can do that like ringing a bell. I gave it a lot of context. I gave it a lot of data. I massaged it. I played with it. It became very reliable. Eventually, memory comes along for ChatGPT, so it can start kind of like persistently remembering more things like that. But that's two things to keep in mind. Frustration with trying to make my own personal private medical bot, and then like the ability to add context and information about you to stuff. So life timeline.
Oh, real quick, speaking of context, before ChatGPT could, quote, remember a little bit about what was in your conversation, the current conversation, but when you mean memory, there's literally a part now of ChatGPT, at least in GPT Plus, where it has a list of what you've told it, and you can go in and edit, okay, this is my wife, this is my kid, and you can also delete, like if you're me, and ask it weird ass shit.
Well, also, as I said to Jeff, I filled mine up in less than a week.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I was putting in everything. Like, I was like, this is it. I found the solution. Like, I'm going to have it remember everything about every device that I have. And then I can just ask it questions and find context. Yep. Yeah. No, that's a good way to put it. But that timeline, for example, like, what are the kinds of things that somebody like me would want from a timeline like that? Well, in my head, I can imagine there's a row for where I lived. There's a row for who my best friend was or who my girlfriend was. There's a row for what grade I was in, or, where I was working. You know what I mean? Like, and I can see that all kind of working together. And I could say, okay, when I was working at this place, I was living in this part of Tallahassee, or, whatever. And I played with that a little bit and it went okay. There's another one I did where I wanted to go straight into some art stuff. I'm going to give you the one that blew me away. And it's okay if you guys are not impressed by this, but just take it in context that I grinded so fucking hard on this. I bought like 4 different apps in December just for trying to get my data out of Apple Health in a way that I could do stuff with. I bought apps on the Mac. I got every thing that can munge JSV into CSV and vice versa. And I tried all the different ways because sometimes it likes JSON. And even if you've it's super well detailed JSON, I'm out there trying to find what is the ICC medical JSON format for this. And I'm like, I'm just doing all this stuff, and then it won't remember it. And remember how I'd get sad because I felt like I lost a friend? Doing all of that. Okay, here's what I did. And I'm going to speak candidly for a minute. Sometimes I take cannabis edibles. And over time, I've wondered, I just kind of vaguely, what impact that has, for example, on my sleep. Let me say from the start, this did not make the thing that I wanted. Instead, it made something far more interesting that tells me a lot about the future.
Ooh.
And I thought, okay, well, there's an app that I use for writing down. We all, you and I, for example, we have apps for health stuff. We have apps for habit stuff. We have all this stuff. I have an app where I write down when I take medicine. I have an app, where I write down just various things that happen. This is different from the journal calendar. This is okay, it's 8:00 and I want to go to bed. So I've taken my sleeping pills and I'm going to have this one, small edible. So what I did was I went to that app and exported all of my data. Now remember, the app that I use for, in this case, tracking did I take an edible, has, I can't even tell you how many pages did I write today in 2009. It's Datum. I just don't like to be freaky about security, but I still use Datum to track stuff like that. It's really easy. I made a bookmark on my homepage on iPhone. It just makes it real fast to go in and mark down, especially things. I have a category called face, and it's just stuff I put in my face. Did I drink a coffee? Did I do this? Understand. I don't even know. I could open it up. There's hundreds and hundreds of rows in this, very few of which have to do with taking an edible. I got that. So export that as a CSV. I exported from AutoSleep. I exported my sleep data, and that's where it started. Okay. And I just thought for shits and giggles, why don't I just ask this thing, what do you think about this? So I'm in ChatGPT 4.0 with Canvas. I upload my AutoSleep data. I upload my entire corpus of datum data, and I ask a 3-word question, which is, I think, a good question to ask pretty often here. What are these? And it says, here's what the data looks like for each of the uploads. Auto sleep data. And then in parentheses, it says what dates. I haven't told it anything. All I did was upload these 2 things and say, what are these? Auto sleep data. It's got dates for sleep records, and then it has the names of the fields, right? Sleep-related metrics such as bedtime, wake time, etc. And then the other one is this file appears to be some kind of personal tracking or inventory. It has columns like name, date, amount, categories, attributes. Entries such as night drugs and weed indicate a tracking of substances, because I've had different kinds of edibles, right? I want to know, is that what we call it? Do we call it edibles? Different kinds over time. And for each one of those in datum, I've entered in how many milligrams of this or that are in it. So that's all nascent in that data. Again, presence of mind a long time ago. Just capture this information. Maybe someday there'll be a use for it. This is the first use I found for it. I uploaded a file of my sleep data. I uploaded a file of that bit data. And then I said, analyze correlation between sleep and drugs. And that says, okay, there's insufficient or incompatible data. Would you like me to further clean it up? And I said, yes, please. Correlation and shows a small negative correlation of blah, blah, blah. I said, do different types of weed show any kinds of correlations? It goes through this, analyze THC, dosage impact on sleep, etc. Then I uploaded more Apple Health stuff. And this is just all in the service of saying, I just dropped a bunch of data into this, and it figured out what it was and what I might want to do with it. Mm-hmm. And that's where that lozenge I mentioned, a little button that I mentioned earlier, after I'd done this, one of the first little suggestion buttons I got at the bottom was, click to do this, analyze impact of THC on sleep. At a point when I hadn't told it that yet, it inferred that I gave you this data and blah, blah, blah. But there's another one, though, that was even, I guess I had told it at that point, but there were several times where it intuited what I might want to do next. And guess what happened? And this is not to drag any product. People are always trying to drag you into these arguments with services and companies. But, Marco had made a remark on ATP a few weeks ago about an app I've used in the past. Marco's on the quest for something that I'm also on the quest for, which is a sleep app that makes it really easy to tag in the morning. It isn't just about emojis. Please don't send Marco he's seen them all. But, this service I've mentioned before and made jokes about before. It's the app that I've used in the past, the service where I've made that joke. It says the correlation, remember this? The correlation it found was you weigh more when you're in Washington, D.C.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So whatever. But, okay, can I just point out then, at that point, it now has 3 months of all of my health data, plus this other stuff, and D. And so I uploaded this. I gave it more sleep data, and I said, merge the new sleep data with the health metrics. Bob's your uncle. Just, it figures it all out. That's all fine. I said, check the correlation with new sleep metrics. That's all I said. And it gave me these 5 bullet points that are very similar to just the table stakes of what an app like that, I don't want to name it because I don't want to drag the guy. He's nice. But you know what I'm saying? I basically unintentionally made that app just by trying to find out if THC has an impact on my sleep. What impact it has on my sleep. Now, I didn't get that. I didn't get most of that's just because of the haphazard way I record all this data, I think. But I basically accidentally made an app that finds correlations with shit in my life. And all I had to do was this is the least I've typed in this app in months.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it just starts putting, it says, oh, by the way, here's a scatter shot, here's a scatter graph of the distribution of this data. Yes. And you can immediately just go in and say, do more of this, less of that kind of stuff. Have you gotten to any, sorry, I talked a lot. Have you gotten to any of that yet?
Well, always my test is first, here's this very strange, weird way I track my mood. And I did the same thing. I just put, I sent you the thing. Oh, God, it doesn't even show the graphs. At least it says, I think
you still can't share anything that has anything but text in it, including graphs.
Yeah, which is a bummer, whatever. I just put it in, and immediately it asks, is this for energy or mood? And I'm like, oh my goodness. It immediately sees it's the number.
A question that if you ask a stranger would sound nuts, but I bet you knew what that meant.
I knew what it meant, and then it said, would you like to try some of this? And I think there were 4 pill buttons of when are you in the best mood, when sorry, I'm trying to find
No, I did that. I did stuff like say, well, what is the moment, what is the minute in a given day that I'm most likely to be asleep? Boom. And it was able to say like 3:15 a.m. or whatever.
And it was like, do you want to know when you're most energized? I'm like, yes, please. Everything that like you said, it was like accidentally making that app, but the scatter, I wouldn't call it the way I gathered data scattershot necessarily.
Well, I'm sorry, I was conflating words. What I was describing is a scatter is a kind of graph. And I said scattershot, but you can tell it whatever you want. You could say, okay, that's good, but make it chronological, or just say this is x-axis. They can probably do this in regular ChatGPT, but make this x-axis, make this y-axis, but exclude any that do this and do that. Remember, you're also manipulating the data. I was able to have it fix and normalize. And let's remember, back in December, January, that was a huge problem for me. I keep firing it up. I think I told you this. I had a playground where before I could type anything in the prompt, it used 100,000 tokens. It took me 100,000 tokens just to get, because again, now XY problem, right? I'm just shoveling data, shoveling instructions. Remember how you did it this time, and do that, and describe this for me so that I want to add a bullet to your instructions on how to do this. Write that up for me. So you know what I'm saying? Before I could do anything. And with this, I'm talking in 30 seconds, it's going, and as ever, this is not a tech story, you guys. This is not a tech podcast. This is not, if you want to turn this into a tech story, do it on your show. That is adjacent to this. I'm talking about a human experience thing where that is tech adjacent, but where you drop in 3 or 4 files, and before you can even tell it what you want, it's offering you things that it thinks are interesting. And that's bananas to me. You don't get that even in apps that are just grinding on years of data. You come up with stuff like, I don't know, there's more sunlight on days where you're visiting a place with lions or whatever. And you're like, oh, I can see that. Or you get stuff like with 85% certainty, I can say that you have more sleep when your heart rate is lower. And you're like, okay. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's kind of, I'm not sure which is correlative with which, but, and that's the problem, right? With the services and apps is it'll use the data it's got to provide you a level of certainty about what it knows. I'm not saying this is perfect. I'm saying this is the excitement that I felt when I first started using this of this is indistinguishable from magic, at least for the purposes that I want to use it for.
I finally found it. I was asking it to do things for the x-axis, but it was for the y-axis. I'm sorry, I'm at the y-axis. You don't need 4 and 5. I just want you to show me 1 through 3. And the graph was still broke. This was with decimal points, and it was doing exactly what I wanted. And and then I just wrote, sorry, can you make it easier to read? And it it made it exactly how I wanted it, with the right number of decimal points.
I was trying to do so much of that stuff with overt instructions. Again, like I said in that thing with Jeff, treating it more like a smart vending machine. And so I would say, oh, and remember this, and remember that, and remember that. And eventually, as you probably may remember, on Playgrounds, you can have all kinds of uploaded files. And I had one called instructions.md. And one of the meta instructions was, before you do fucking anything, reread your instructions. As little Alex Horn would say, all of the information is on the task. Please just always, and because I have a line in there that's remember that with this link, the ICC, it's called a schema. The schema for this JSON. I got an app, Alex, that let me build my own schemas. So I was
what?
now, no,
I
don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but now I'm out there going, well, there's 4 general kinds of things that are in, I think it's called ICC, but the standardized, medical format thing, learn that. And it'll go, okay, great, learned it. And then you come back the next day and it's I've never met you. And so I would try and solve that by shoveling data and instructions in there. But again, like Syracuse is smart to remind us, all you're doing is telling it more things to put into the prompt for next time. It's just, as he says, It's all input. But like, that's the part where like, just off the dome for me, having experienced that stuff, mainly with ChatGPT, but like getting to that now, so what does that do? Well, that's neat. I'm not actually over concerned about that question that I asked. But again, just because it's anodyne and easy doesn't mean it's not useful. But you know what it sure does do is it says, okay, this can now easily do a thing, apparently, that it couldn't easily do before and perhaps just was resistant to doing before. And like, it's a black box, right? I don't know. It's title, a black box full of secret sauce. A black box?
No.
That's horrible.
No.
Does the box have to be black or can it just be the friend?
No, not the. Oh, God. No.
We could try some other ones right now just for fun, but like I'm saying, this is way more than a pin. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm so excited by this. I care so much about this stuff, and it's become such a personal thing.
Who are you apologizing to? This is no. The people who don't want to hear this have left, and the people who are extremely passionate about this, like me, and who get yelled at on the internet by everyone because I've stolen all the data.
Well, there you go. There's your answer, isn't it?
Well, but that's the thing. Yeah, I've stopped apologizing.
I can hear the yelling before it happens. Title. The yelling in my head is constant. The thing is, it's not even yelling, though. It's like, the kind of sweet way you go like, hey, buddy, there's that. But no, there's more often it's like, ugh, you again. You really don't learn anything from anything, do you? No, not really. That's the voice is more like, boy, everybody thinks you're really stupid about everything.
I keep going back to the one that got me in trouble. Is like, when you tell me that I'm using a piece of tech wrong, the same, and it sounds exactly like word for word how you're saying I'm doing gender wrong or who I am marrying wrong. Like, do you really? I know it is not a good. It's just the vibe. I don't know. It's really weird. I'm like, what the fuck?
Alex, I do not disagree at all. I have a very dear friend to whom I have said, do you have a methodology for knowing the difference between a very strong opinion and a law of nature? Or, the way I like to ask you questions sometimes is like, how would you know that you know? Sort of more like, I forget which one it is. Teleological, ontological, I forget which, but like, what's the word for that? No, what's Descartes' argument for God based on? Anyways, no, this is the ontological, there's the teleological, there's the... Anyways, but like, do you have a thing in you as a human being that gives you the tickle for like solving the problem that needs to be solved in your mind rather than the one that you're comfortable solving? Mm-hmm. And like, if you're comfortable solving the problem of here's a data dump of everything I know about a thing and you don't know that, so you're bad. I said something to Jeff in that podcast, which is a pretty good episode if you like my bullshit. I'm forgive my saying this. It's what you're describing is also a very privileged thing to say. The whole like learn everything from the bottom up. Again, just every time you say that, like we talked a lot, for example, during the pandemic about single moms trying to raise 3 kids and their kids have to go to McDonald's to get Wi-Fi. Like I don't think that's a straw man. I don't think that's an extreme thing. If you ever just think about how people in the world get from one place to another on public transit, and it will completely change your view of the world. And if you think those people don't exist, you're a bad person.
Yeah, this isn't starving children in Africa. These are people
No, but if you're not a bad person, but people can very easily gloss right past that and go, well, it takes too long for me to get through this 1/8 mile part of town, and that frustrates me, for example. And you're like, well, you apparently have forgotten the thing you were certain you'd never forget, which is that like, you know about a thing. So now you've integrated that into your life. One thing I'm not putting, this is not my strongest thing to say about this, but I do want this to become a grace note, is like, there is something weirdly privileged about the way sometimes people are very comfortable saying like, gatekeeping, for example. Like you're not allowed to be, you shouldn't be doing this unless you also have done X. You shouldn't be allowed to do this unless you also know and have proven that you know why. All the way down to like, you shouldn't be allowed to have an opinion about this unless you have learned the same things in the same order that I have. I don't want to make a straw man. I'm asking all of you, our dear listeners, our friends, you magnificent bastards, we happy few, we band of brothers, start interrogating yourself a little bit for times that you might accidentally be turning into a homemade asshole because of something you think you want to be right about and you think you're on the right side of history. And I'm not talking about like being canceled and shit like that. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just trying to say like, well, not everybody has time to learn all of the Python. Nobody has time to learn all of the AppleScript. I had tons of time to fuck around with this. Thank God. Well, yeah, I was close to dying, but like I had time enough at last to be able to play with this stuff and get frustrated with it in December and January, but to then see the sort of the future of that, what's illuminating, what's invigorating to me about using this right now, just fucking around, is like, oh, we're starting to turn a little bit of a corner with this. It doesn't change anything about what people are skeptical about or understandably even cynical about with this. I read the same magazines and books that you all do, but but the truth is, like, if you can drop in 2 text files and it gives you an observation about your life that would have been difficult for you to find on your own, that's potentially even more powerful than finding out how many British TV shows David Bradley's been in. And that's not nothing.
I've found out that...
Very good.
If you actually...
You can pick any of them. We just watched that. I made my family watch Reigns of Castamere a week or so ago.
Oh, goodness. Oh...
Man, that fucking Lannister song.
Yeah.
That's also, but like, also, you know, we've recently gotten Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal rolls into town to go to Joffrey's wedding. Big insult because they didn't send the guy from Star Trek who's in the wheelchair, the medieval wheelchair. You remember that?
Who's the?
I think he's like he's like a handsome gay guy. He's from. Where's the place they're from? Is it Marine?
Tarth?
No, not Tarth. They've got all the. Well, supposedly have all the emeralds. It's a cover story. Pedro. Okay, let's do
Pedro
this.
Pascal.
Let's do this. New thread. ChatGPT.
Yeah.
4.0. Wait, how do I get? Wait a minute. Where my canvas at? Oh, that's because I'm in the app. Okay, this is another thing. Completely.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing. What works where? The fact that memory doesn't work everywhere still is a little confusing.
And right now I'm in the link. So I, sent you a link that was made or a link to something made in Canvas, and it won't open, obviously, or what should be obvious, like, oh, you can't share Canvas with people. Okay. So then I click on it thinking that it'll just take me to the same conversation in my browser, but nope, you go up to ChatGPT 4.0 with Canvas, and it's showing you that.
Yes.
But then it says, it's still, I'm logged in, and it's still making me go to the other one.
It's frustrating. Okay, here's what I did. Okay, so I'm going to read you the words that I've just typed. Because really, I'm just a dumb fucking monkey. I am in ChatGPT 4.0 with Canvas. I said Pedro Pascal, Game of Thrones. And it says Pedro Pascal played the character Oberyn Martell, also known as the Red Viper. You killed my sister! You murdered! Anyways, if you got the mountain on the ground, just don't dance. Fucking finish him off. Just finish off. God damn it. Pedro Pascal played the character Oberyn Martell. You know what my next prompt was after that? Oberyn's storyline leads to a memorable fight scene with the mountain. And you want my next? Ready for this? Okay.
Go on.
His brother, the prince, was on Star Trek. Wait, it's like in the style of a Griffin Newman, right? Haunted Corn Maze actor tips, please. Anybody want to do a Yahoo? Haunted Corn Maze actor tips, please. So what I typed was his brother, the prince, was on Star Trek. What the fuck does that mean? You know what it means? Yes. Alexander Siddig, who played Doran Martell in Game of Thrones, also had a significant role in Star Trek. He starred as Dr. Julian Bashir on Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Billy loves this character. One of the main characters throughout the series run. So I don't know where I'll go next with this. Maybe I could ask it to map Oberyn Martell's stick fighting skills with my blood pressure or something.
I've discovered people do not read the same magazines as you because
I love our inside jokes. Thank you.
Read many I do read the magazines, and they're like, oh, Merlin, you're just pissing
what all
into
the magazines
the ocean.
Say is, here's the thing you can buy on Amazon. That's what the magazines say.
Yes.
Yeah. Great.
Like, oh, Merlin, you're pissing in a water bottle and dumping it into the ocean for this.
Oh my God! You should read this new Wired article on Tradwife noodle meals. You can get a pot. They have a Tradwife pot you can buy now. Click here.
I think the Tradwife water wasting.
You ever had Tradwife noodles?
I do think it is interesting to interrogate. Okay, what is this data?
No, sorry, you were saying you don't think so. Like implying that we're not all on the same page as everybody. You're saying,
and they're not curious about what they're mad at me for using. Like, okay, yeah, how much water it is wasted? Oh, quote wasted. Like, yeah, that's interesting. Let's interrogate that. But and so I looked into it, and because it's a black box and it's just all smushed in, like, we don't know anything about this tech, and I'm like, why are you taking a page out of the Ben Shapiro fucking, not just Ben Shapiro, but just the whole like reactionary playbook?
Hey, give me a helpful pivot here. So when somebody says X, it sounds like Ben Shapiro saying Y. Can you fill that in for me?
Okay, when someone's like, you are using...
Is this adjacent to what I'm calling the privilege thing? Is it kind of similar?
It is. It's not just... I wouldn't even say
also
that.
Information paucity.
It is, I guess if you want to say that, like, it's privilege... I guess...
No, go ahead. So X and Y, give it to me.
I guess, yeah, it's like, because you're looking up sword fights, the ocean is going to burn. And it's like, what is it? Is it really? It's not. If you go and look for it, it's like, because you kissed a girl, the rapture will happen.
Oh, so like kind of like specious connections?
Yeah.
Which is pretty funny for people who like to talk about how dumb this app is at making connections.
It just makes me sad because, as I've said before, it's people are boring about. It's how many times can you post about that on social media? I'm like, you sound like. I don't know anymore.
People like
I said I wasn't going to talk about.
I know people like to feel safe, and it's my so like one thing I always fall back on is something I said in the document, which is if you can't understand somebody's motivation in life, at least consider that it could be because of fear or money or both, which I find to be, as heuristics go, there are worse heuristics out there than like going, oh, well, maybe that's because of money, or maybe, et cetera, et cetera. The other one is just security. People like to feel secure. How do we feel secure in life? Boy, it differs a lot from person to person. But one way that I think, tend to want to feel personally secure. I mean, why do cognitive biases exist? Why does confirmation bias exist? Well, in some ways, it's because we want to feel secure. Well, what would that have to do with security? Well, in some ways, the ultimate security is to know that you're right about almost everything, and that you're navigating a world where there are people who are right about things and people who are wrong about things. But like in my day-to-day, just encountering people over 58 years, there are not that many people who are constantly, honestly, openly saying, yeah, there's this thing I've thought, Jesus, for 35 years, and the entire time I've thought it was wrong, but I continue to believe it. Nobody does that, Did you listen to Ezra Klein's latest?
Yeah.
But like the one about Trump's real, to understand Trump, here's the thing. You need to understand that one about disinhibition.
Yeah, and about Trump is how he is.
But it was like, dude, I don't know. I sent it to Madeline. I sent it to a bunch of people, and I was like, look, I know to avoid the notion of like skeleton keys in life or like this explains everything, but like there's something really toothy about saying, I mean, I really suggest listening to this episode. I think it's very, very good now more than ever. But Ezra Klein is basically saying, it's one of those ones, sometimes he brings in the producer to act like she's interviewing him, but he just did a monologue and it was fucking great. And it was basically about that one of the defining characteristics we talk about is Trump a narcissist. I think the episode's called "What's Wrong with Trump," and it was about like all the stuff we've been talking about. Like, what is he doing? He's bananas out there. What is he doing? He's playing YMCA and dancing, and he's doing this, and like he's obviously very confused and not well. And like I've always had this niggle, as you know, since 2015 of like I still feel like there's something. As far as our own security about what we believe, there's something that benefits our own sense of being right to constantly be confused about why, quote, anyone likes Donald Trump. And like, it's been a journey for me to like legitimately, in good faith, try to understand that, even though I absolutely do not agree with it. Again, see also, people in America tend to believe that knowing about something is the same thing as agreeing with it. But he really gets at something, which is that if you really look at it, keep boiling it down, keep boiling it down, keep boiling it down. This is my words. If you boil off everything else, you know what you're left with is a lack of inhibition, which is absolutely colored by, again, Fred Trump's voice. Like it's very colored by the fact that he can't be wrong, is this, but like, does it help you better understand? It's like that book, What's Wrong with Kansas? Like the people would do things that are not in their from an economic standpoint or economic psychology standpoint. Like they do stuff that's not in their interest, but they just like how Trump do. And it's like, you can't understand that. You're like, okay, well, these people are stupid. They're low information voters. They're blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, are they, or is there something about his lack of inhibition that means a lot to them? Mm-hmm. Right? How would you describe it? I listened to it and I'm going to listen to it again. I thought it was, what was your takeaway from it?
One of the many things that made my ears perk up was when he was like, no, it's, yeah, sure, there might be an element of dementia, but when you saw Donald Trump dancing to his playlist on stage for 30 minutes, that's not a man that's confused or uncomfortable. That's a man who has no inhibitions and no shame.
Which is a completely different POV on that. It sounds similar. That's no. He's not deranged. Like he's deranged, whatever, in this way. But like that's not because he's sundowning. It may not be because he's sundowning. It may just be because he's not inhibited about being in front of people who love him and just soaking that in. This also gets us into why is it Trump gets. Say again.
He's amongst his people, yes. And that's why it's kind of like what we were trying to talk about, but Ezra Klein, like that is what makes Trump more dangerous, is because he is completely among people who are his yes men. There are
otherwise they would not be there for more than half a day.
Right. Yeah.
No, I mean it's not. I don't mean it mean, but it's true.
No, it's fact.
This keeps bringing us back to Kash Patel. Why does somebody who looks like the Amazing Larry and has no actual talent, apparently he's got a law degree, how does Kash Patel keep moving up inside that weird organization? It's because he is, Jesus. Did you see the Atlantic article about?
No, I try to.
No, stop. I'm so glad I have Apple News. You're so mean to the Atlantic. They have so much good stuff in there. And what did they do to piss you off?
They have some good writers. I don't think they have good taste or good editors.
So a lot's come out in the last couple days where I guess it's one of the generals, who was it? The Army, the chief of staff guy. A lot of more anecdotes are coming out. And so like one of the anecdotes, which is hilarious as somebody who watches a ton of Hitler videos and history videos, is that Trump had said he needs generals like Hitler had, who are unerringly loyal to him. And he's said versions, so that was the big headline from it. But like, and the guy joked with him in a way that I think is pretty clever. He's like, are you talking about Bismarck's generals? Like, kind of like, are you talking about like the Franco-Prussian War? Like, which generals are you talking about? Because, well, let me just give you a few. Let's see. Oh, you got Rommel, the Desert Fox. He was implicated in one of the numerous plots to kill him and had to commit suicide. Goering lied about the abilities of the Luftwaffe. He was so busy stealing art that he couldn't get supplies into Russia. That guy was kind of a piece of shit. Like, they were not loyal to him, but that's different. That's a different part of this. Let's stick with the first part of this, which is just he is disinhibited from saying to the highest ranking general in the United States, I need more generals like Hitler. And then the other anecdote was, I'm sorry, I apologize. This is unpleasant. I'm sorry to say this, but do you remember an anecdote where a woman who was in the armed forces was assaulted by her colleagues, and then they buried her and hid her body.
Yeah.
Trump did a whole big thing publicly. You can watch the video of this with her family, I think in the Oval Office, and like put on a whole big show about like how much he cares about, a tremendous person and just the shit that he always says. And then he makes a big show of saying, we'll pay for the funeral. I'll pay for the funeral. I'll write you a check. And just send me the invoice. Cut forward. At some point, he says, did you ever talk to those people again? And somebody says, yeah, they sent us a bill for $60,000. And he says, he's furious. And he says, don't pay it. No way does it cost $60,000 to bury a fucking Mexican.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
He said, these fucking people are always trying to like bleed me dry. Now, there's one angle of that. This gets into a lot of my problem with cable news, for example. My long-running bit where like every time Dana Bash has the opportunity, she does that quote about stand back and stand by and how he's directly, and I'm like, no, that's just because that was word salad. And now the press tries to make sense of that. And now he has to make sense of that. That was just him just saying shit because he's disinhibited. And again, no skeleton key, but like it sure does explain a lot when you then season the disinhibition with these other factors that are all in evidence about him being, I don't know if he's a malignant narcissist, but he certainly seems a little bit self-involved. He certainly seems a little bit like somebody who looks for his own interests above others. He's, all the usual, like, just standard personality flaws that any fucking person has. It's just he has, half an order of magnitude more of. But then season that onto that disinhibition and stuff starts making a little more sense. Why is it the crazier he acts, the more people like him? I don't know, man. Did you ever watch Passion of the Christ? Did you ever watch Gladiator? Like, do you know how those movies end? It ends with somebody being basically treated very, very badly, treated very unfairly by some kind of a mob or crowd in power, and yet they persevere, right? Like in Gladiator, again, prima nocta, that was a bad start. But like, right? You know what I'm saying? Like that is a story that America loves.
Yeah.
And I think what did that have to do with all of that is that phrase I don't love from journalism. Oh, this has to go. I have a new list. I got to add this too. Your priors. Check your priors. If you go into this in the same way that I said last episode, like if you haven't caught up on how weird this guy can get, like this is the week to start catching back up, with the dance party and all that kind of stuff. Like when you, to put this stuff into context, it's really useful to have more than one way of looking at it, or to have an updated view of what these things can mean, and to look at the world as a dynamic environment, and to benefit from the ways that even short periods of history, even 9 years of history, can put you someplace so different from where you were before. Think about how we thought about this election in June. Think about how we thought about this election in the first week of August, and think about how we think about this election right now. That's a lot of relatively seismic, as some people like to say, a roller coaster of feelings. And that's just since my kid got out of school. Like when you put that stuff together like a learned person, you pretty quickly discover that there is something beneficial to doing more than showing up and trying to tick off every box to prove that you're still right. What do you write about? You're right about whatever it is, whatever your thing is, how you raise a kid, how you use a turn signal, how you learn to do development, or even put more saliently, how you learn to realize that you have a problem that could be fixed by an app that could write you 5 lines of code that change your life forever. Make that a cron job, you've changed your life, and you didn't have to learn programming. Does that mean you don't need to learn programming? Nobody said that. Nobody said that at all. But if you just go into these things ticking off your boxes to show that you're still right, you're basically your like confirmation bias pilot list. Like you don't grow as a person. You kind of can't grow as a person. And now you're actually kind of closer to Donald Trump than you were before. Because now, whether that's about ChatGPT or Donald Trump or Python, you're still focusing an unintentionally large amount of your attention at proving that you're more right than other people, and you will find the evidence to prove it. And with something like this, like I said to Jeff on that podcast I keep mentioning, like he wanted to talk about like curiosity, the role of curiosity. And I was like, well, there's the one kind of curiosity that's somewhat obvious, which is like, oh, I just like knowing about new stuff. But there's another kind of curiosity where like, I don't want to just know about the new stuff. I want to understand more about what my relationship to that is or could be, which is a good deal more than just saying, I'm going to look at this long enough to be able to write 1,500 words on how it's potentially dangerous to people who have a Patreon.
Well, and if the answer is it's not for me, or I am not if this isn't for me, or I cannot be involved with this, or it's not relevant to my life, then it is.
But even if it is relevant to their life, like, do you know that when I'm referring to a book, I don't know how many years ago, 20 years ago. Like, what's the matter with Kansas? Why does Kansas vote the way they do?
I have no idea what
Well, there are two books that got a lot of, in that sort of like pre-Malcolm Gladwell world, there were two books that got a lot of attention that I remember. There was a lot of like weird controversial books about culture in the 90s, Robert Hughes, people like that. But in this instance, what's the notion of what's the matter with Kansas is like, why is it that people, let's just talk about money. We don't have to call it economics. Why do people consistently make decisions that are at odds with things that would benefit them financially? Does that sound familiar? Well, guess what? In 10 years, that's going to be all kinds of stuff about behavioral economics, which is, not a new idea then, but Daniel Kahneman, I didn't have a poster of Daniel Kahneman in the 90s. I didn't know all that shit. That's one thing. Why is it that people, and that's kind of the whole basis of Freakonomics in some ways, is like, why do people do these things that to a rational person you would go, well, that's at odds with what the interest is. Another book that came out at the time that I remember was Bowling Alone. And it was one of those like, what is it? What do they call it? What's that analogy? Is it foxes and badgers? Some people know a lot about one thing, and some people know a little about a lot of things. I'll look it up for the after show. But Bowling Alone was just a way of saying, in some ways, bowling has never been more successful. When I think of bowling, I think of my mom in particular, who had like a 230 average. She was really good. My mom would bowl every week with her friends. She had bridge club with my dad where they played bridge at somebody's house. They did all these things socially. There was church groups. There was, you name it. But isn't it interesting that the number of, I don't know how they quantified this, but like the number of people who are going bowling on the reg, the way I would look at it is like the number of hours bowled in a year has gone up from where it was before. But almost all of that rise in bowling is happening with people who are doing it by themselves. Whereas bowling used to be, but bowling used to be seen as, but this is the kind of behavioral economic stuff that I think is interesting. It's what makes people get to the second and a half level of turns out shit, where they get to go, oh, that's different from what I thought. Okay, cocktail party chatter, next thing. But if you don't make a habit of interrogating how much your behaviors, thoughts, and your behaviors, your thoughts, your cognition, all those things, how they're unintentionally moored to things that are actually not an updated idea, teaches you a lot. Whereas I'm going in there and I'm like, I'm just fucking raw dogging it. I'm just walking in there like, let me just give you all the JSON and you tell me how to become more interesting.